Welcome to Film Grain, the official podcast of the Film Society of Northwestern Pennsylvania and the Greater Erie Film Office. Thanks for listening this week. I'm Erika Berlin, the Executive Director of the Film Society of Northwestern PA.
I'm John Lyons, filmmaker, teaching artist, and director of programming for the Film Society.
And this week we have special guests on the podcast, the partners of Oddity Productions, Danny Pakulski, Simon Yahn, and Liam O'Brien. Oddity Productions is a video production company based in Erie, PA. And today we'll be discussing their new film, Alexander the Brain. Welcome, Danny, Simon, and Liam.
Yeah.
We're excited to be here, yeah.
Woohoo!
Woohoo! So why don't you tell us a little bit about the genesis of Oddity Productions?
I suppose I'll take this one. Oddity started in 2017, I believe, as a way to as a way for Liam and I to make money while also doing something that isn't flipping burgers or driving Ubers or whatever you do to make money. So that's sort of how it started, and it definitely was from its conception meant to be something that's not just commercial but also creative. So it was going to be the outlet through which we would make our films.
Yeah, and then on the whole, I had started my time at Rochester Institute of Technology studying film production and motion picture science, and Danny and I had collaborated on a few projects leading through high school, and I tried to bring back the technical knowledge and skills from RIT back to Oddity as well.
And in 2020, when we all got together and we were sitting down, we were like, wait a minute, we've got the creative mind, we've got the technical mind, we've got the business mind, which is me. It was the perfect pairing, I guess, of specialties. And since we're such good, tight collaborators and friends and now partners, it just made sense that we could each take on those roles and try to build something that hopefully could have a bigger impact than just in our own lives.
Talk about the name Oddity real quick. What's the genesis of the name?
The name Oddity, it was going to be a few things at first. I think I wanted Dazed and Confused originally, which is like a Led Zeppelin song, and then also just like certain,
The Linklater film.
Yeah. That sort of felt like maybe it wouldn't go over too well as far as trying to find some commercial projects and not, maybe being taken too seriously, but I still wanted something creative, so Oddity was sort of a second choice, and that comes from the David Bowie song Space Oddity. And David Bowie for me is someone who's like doesn't take no for an answer. If he has an artistic vision, if he has a creative intent, nothing will stop him from doing that, and I think that's definitely important to us as well. And then sort of the idea of like space and
traveling to where
like
the new is.
This idea of like infinity, and I think there's something cool in there.
So I think you probably are the definition of young entrepreneurs. So, and I think there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of younger people who kind of sit around and think like, I don't know what to do with my life. And maybe they're held back by a lack of confidence, but you don't seem to have that problem. So what really gave you the inspiration to kick off your careers while you were still in school? Because two of you are still in school.
Yeah, sure.
Correct. Yeah.
I think we've all been naturally just leaning towards something that we have more ability to make, I guess, our own and make something that we're proud of. So in the sense that, we've always, I think each of us have always had an entrepreneurial drive from a young age. I know I definitely, since high school, I knew I wanted to be a business owner of some kind. And Simon and Danny both being in the arts, I think, it's always better to make your own art, I suppose.
Yeah, I would say that through all of our educations and life experiences up to this point, we've been able to really catch glimpses of the way like larger organizations operate and how films are made, like individually going very deep into that making process, and now have the incredible itch to like be on the like decision making ends of those creating processes. So for myself, it was a lot about, okay, I get to work with these learning these technologies, these workflows, but I'm not really finding a creative outlet to use them in. So I needed to look outside of school to get that like level of involvement and attention. And then, you know, you could say for, you know, Danny, maybe it's like there was just no other option as well, you know.
Yeah. There, I no, I think I've said this already like a number of times, and maybe even on the other podcast I was on. But there was only two things I ever wanted to be, and one of them was a paleontologist because I love dinosaurs, and then number two was filmmaker. So the films were always going to happen. It was sort of inevitable, you know, because I've been doing films in one form or another. It was like YouTube videos when they first started, since I was like 10 years old or something. So really, Oddity was just kind of giving it a name. Yeah, and then bringing my friends together. So
A lot of times in filmmaking, you know, it feels like you're living out on an island on your own, and maybe naively, it takes us a while to figure out that it's not something that you can do on your own. It's a collaborative art form. I feel that a lot of us still in the area are, you know, when we start out, we feel like we should wear all the hats and do everything alone. Like, was it important to you all from the start to kind of leapfrog that learning curve and start out as a team, as a tight knit core? And do you have any advice for filmmakers that might be, you know, just starting out and listening to this, you know, about the importance of finding their team?
Yeah, I think like you said, wearing multiple hats, two brains are better than one always. And if you have people that are dedicated to their specialty, and especially if it's something that they're in love with, like I handle a lot of the production aspects of our projects, and I love that sort of stuff. I love the organization. I love the being on top of it with every department and making sure everyone's working well together. And so for me, that's like a role that I really enjoy doing, enjoy trying to get better at. So it's really not even work in that sense. It's just something that I get to do, and I'm fortunate to do. And then same for Danny and Simon. I mean, they love their roles and they get to do it, and they get to continually improve on that. And on bigger projects, even having more people that we don't work with every single time come together and start a relationship working together, being able to pass off things to those people. At first, I think it was hard maybe for me even to say, hey, can you go do this? Can you go do that? But now it's something that it's so great to be able to give people opportunity to add their own creative input into it and to add their own spice and make it something good, and that's been really important, I think.
Definitely a key aspect that we always talk about is like motivating people to be like ready to give their best to whatever project we're working on. And going back to like your point about collaboration, like any of our films would not be possible without collaboration on any level. It's like, whether it's finding the right person that's like willing to let you come onto their property and film on the location, or if it's, getting an actor to like spend the time to learn your lines and like perform in front of the camera. Like there are certain aspects of film that can be like singular, but it also is just so much less fun. Like it's a big part of like what makes doing the work enjoyable is like meeting people of new disciplines, and like how does their work make sense to them. I remember having this epiphany a little bit when I was a PA on Unearthed. Actually, we were like we had been shooting out on a farm for a few days, and there was like going to a pizza parlor where we like completely took over the pizza parlor for a while. And I was like, I probably would never have stepped in the back area of a pizza parlor if it wasn't for filmmaking. And it's all through like, finding the people to collaborate to get you there.
There was a lot of weird things we did on Earth for no reason. Well, no, for filmmaking, but you do them for that reason, that you wouldn't do them,
Yeah,
you wouldn't just do
you would
those
never have
things.
another reason to be in that space.
Yeah,
or,
film
like,
gets you
learn anything about that.
into weird places. Yeah, and I think we also like to talk about the idea of a Justice League too. So, no, like there's a job that maybe Batman can do well, but Superman will not be so good at. That's sort of what we're at as a team. I can operate camera, but not as well as Simon. So let him do the Batman. I'll do Superman, and then Liam does Wonder Woman. So We're all set.
He brings
Love
the
it.
truth out.
So yeah, I think that team effort is really important, and find some buddies that have passion. And I've never watched a good film that wasn't about humanity. So I mean, if you're making movies, you're making them about people. So put people on them.
So let's talk about films a little bit. What was your first film project?
Well, I guess there's like different levels because, like I said, Danny and I had worked in like really
Mm.
intro. Let's call them introductory films in high school, leading up to graduation. But I guess like our first like larger project that we all were involved on was. Were you involved on Brad Doc?
Yeah.
So yeah, Brad Doc then, because
Mm.
I did post work on that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was Danny's documentary, A Life in Paint. That was our first like official.
Who was the artist that was about?
Brad Letheby. He's currently in Girard. He does really beautiful like impressionist paintings of like nature and stuff like that. Yeah.
What was the like time frame of that? Like
That was like as the company was sort of being created. That was sort of
First,
that was the first thing. I mean, we had to put like a logo, and it was like, okay, time to make a company for the movie. So that was cool. Yeah. So that would have been the first Oddity project ever. Would be that
Mhm.
half-hour documentary.
All right, so you did that, and then you're like, all right, it's time to make the next big
Next one.
movie. All right,
Mhm.
and then so Alexander the Brain, that's what we're here to talk about today. So where did it come from? How did you come up with it? Did one day Danny come in and go like, I've got it.
he punched Liam in the face and
I
let me tell you something here, boy.
Inspiration comes from many places. I would say it started with an ice dunk, and
It literally did. Oh my gosh.
an ice dunk is on a budget. It is grabbing a big trash can that can fit a human body. You get about 10 bags of ice.
From Burger King.
Burger King is a cheap place to get your ice from.
Mhm.
And then you take your big trash can, you put your ice in there, and then you fill it with water, and then you sit in it for approximately 2 minutes or longer if possible.
So we were doing this because of Wim Hof, and we were doing like I guess it's good for your body, but also good for your mind and all that good stuff like mental toughness. But our friend Jacob Ames was one of my friends that I met when I worked at Starbucks, and he's just a multi-medium artist, filmmaker, or videographer. He does all sorts of stuff. He's very talented in a lot of different disciplines, but that's when Danny met him the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And Danny, you were working on it. You were working on an idea, but it wasn't even ATB yet. It was.
I don't even think it was that. I think it was just like Jake and I were like, okay, let's try to collaborate on something, and that's sort of where that came from. And then Jake's such a big Peaky Blinders fan, so it was sort of going to be in that realm. And then I had just finished up a class on the Civil War, so I was like, this time period is really cool. Let's do something that's sort of in this kind of zone.
And
Yeah.
Jake had just at that moment actually gotten pretty popular on TikTok, getting like 200-some thousand followers, and he was doing a lot of these videos where he would match cut, right? He would like cut
Mhm.
himself into a frame and change his costume and change all sorts of stuff, and he was doing a lot of Peaky Blinder costume match cuts, and those were really popular. I think his first one, like that got over 1 million likes or something like that, was a Peaky Blinders theme. So I think that was another thing that we saw him in the costume, and Danny was like, "Ooh."
Yeah, and he has like a look to him, especially. I think his little gap in his teeth is like so funny. It's like such a good little piece of his character. And then obviously the mustache is like a gorgeous, gorgeous piece of facial hair.
And he's
yeah.
also devilishly handsome. So
Yeah.
that helps.
I think that's also another good thing to mention is that like at the time we were also trying to really expand into meeting a lot of the other young creatives of Erie, Pennsylvania. Like when we were like, oh, okay, we're gonna make a company about that's all about filmmaking. It's like, well, what is the landscape of filmmaking in Pennsylvania, in Erie, and to be inclusive of new media like TikTok, like social media influencing, because I believe there is a place for them in the filmmaking industry for sure. So that was also just like a time period that we were starting to reach out to more, similar creators that are trying to make it in the Erie area. So
Yeah. And
What
then
did you find? What was the real quick, Simon? What was the ecosystem at that point, in your honest opinion?
A lot of photographers.
yeah, a lot of still photography, a lot of corporate video work, and event type of content, and it was something that like we saw like the potential, and we're not satisfied with the current state. We were like, we can like bring our own to this, but also start to like bring other people up with it. And I think that's like something that we will always maintain, but something that is really critical for
Growing industry.
yeah.
Growing.
Yep. There was potential for cultivation, I think is a good way to put it.
I mean,
So
you don't need to tell John how good Erie is for filmmaking. And
I mean,
how things are way more financially accessible, and there are talented people here, and there's equipment available, and all the locations.
Strong sense of like community and
that PA tax credit too.
Yeah, exactly. And so for those reasons, we just want to see Erie, mature into that type of film industry where it rivals places like Pittsburgh or Cleveland or wherever bigger places, even to a place where people can know that they can come here from out of town and create a production that is high production value and more effective costs, basically.
So, well, did you take advantage of the tax credit? Did you use it?
No,
I don't think so.
Okay.
we
Just
did
that
not.
down.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us what Alexander the Brain is and what it's about?
Yeah, so the film, Alexander the Brain, he is a fighter in the 1800s. He's sort of the epitome of growing up in the Civil War era and sort of post-Civil War era, which is, I mean, if you think about it, I mean, there's definitely parallels to the state of America back then to now.
Yeah,
but
like end of Trump presidency into like insurrection on the January 6th. Like that was very much in the timeline of the film.
Very divisive period.
Yes. So if you think about that, and then sort of where we were back then, the country was literally split in half. Like the South was like, let's do some fighting right now, and then North is like, all right, gotta take care of these guys. So we had an America that was just so destroyed and damaged, and the invention of photography. This is the first war that's being photographed. So people in their homes are seeing these images of gruesome graphic violence. So Alexander is someone who grew up during all of that. So the way he thinks about patriotism and violence and masculinity, it comes from that sort of culture around him. So the film is about that character who has found a way in a really messed up America to feel powerful, a really unhealthy way to feel powerful, which is fighting. And now he's sort of inspiring other people like him. So there's another character named Charlie who's like Alexander, but he hasn't found that sort of way to feel powerful yet. So he sees Alexander as an answer. He's sort of like a prophet. So he's going to him looking for that. And then Alexander will sort of show him the ways of the ring.
Yeah, it also ties into that very real world of bare knuckle boxing that was like a very like significant cultural movement of the time. Like, it's ingrained into our like heads through cinema and like glorification of it, but it was a real part of American culture for many years.
Yeah, and then going back to photography and how that ties in, boxing was the first, or that was the birth of sports journalism, was with bare knuckle boxing. So it's like, why were we as a culture so obsessed with something so brutal? Like, why can you not like think of baseball faster? It's like, why is this the first thing that you thought of as far as like a sporting event? So that's sort of like what the film's about as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very interesting because immigrants and working class people, even still a lot the case today in competitive sport and things like that, from all the way back from gladiators in the arena, right? Like beating the piss out of each other is, sometimes easiest way to make a living.
Yeah.
You know, either that or breaking your back, you know, digging a trench somewhere, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Terrible options. But I love the themes. Obviously, this is a period film, so I'm very curious. You know, what challenges did you all have making a period film on a budget? And then if you could also comment to how you funded the film, as much of that as you want to share.
Sure. So it definitely provided some challenges when we were sitting in our pre-production stages and brainstorming, oh, how's this going to look? You know, what did they have in the 1800s? What did the insides of houses look like? But what did the insides of houses for characters like Alexander look like, you know? And that was a pretty fun challenge to overcome. But we were lucky that our main actor, Jake, had an attic that was very old and rustic and had, you know, wood paneling everywhere. And that provided a great starting point. And then we did a lot of set design. And then another big thing was the costume design. Louis Jaramita, the owner of Primo Tailoring, was our costume designer, and he did a lot of research with Danny on, you know, what did the period have back then as far as men's clothing and, you know, the classes of society and how did people look. You know, and for someone like Alexander, he, you know, has the same shirt a lot in the film, but part of that's because he doesn't really care about what he looks like. He doesn't care about what he wears. Like, he gets blood on his shirt, right? He doesn't care. He's here to fight. So that was part of it. And it's funny, I just remember now, actually, we would progressively make the blood on his shirt get worse from the beginning to the end because, you know, as he fights, it gets worse. And then for funding, we raised just around $6,000 for the project through mostly crowdfunding on Indiegogo. And I mean, you guys, I'm sure, like pushed the post as well, and everyone was reposting locally, and people are very helpful, and the community is really tight here. We also just had some people that we knew that wanted to just write us a check as well, which was awesome, and we're really grateful for those people.
Yeah, I was gonna say, based on or going off of that, with any film, you're going to have like certain constraints, certain limits, whether they're physical, whether they're like manpower of the film. You're gonna have like these constraints that then lead into how do we creatively solve that through the actual like writing of the script, or like where we're gonna have these locations at. And we figured it would be most effective for us to find existing locations that we could push as far into that vintage feel, which was actually we had quite a few like options that we considered around Erie. There just like happens to be a lot of very like rustic locations, maybe not necessarily like Civil War rustic, but like ones that we could at least start with. And we also relied a lot on like the idea of like where these fights would actually be like held, because they were technically illegal a lot of the time. So they would be held like in innocuous locations like horse barns or fronts for other locations. So that's actually how we landed on where we actually shot our film, or our fight scene, which was a horse barn outside in the Fairview area, where there's like a lot of actual like farm owners and like horse barns that had those like kind of very classical wooden structure without much like modern giveaways that we could utilize and convert into a real like ancient, a time period accurate piece.
Yeah, they actually had the, like, you can imagine like an old carriage with the wheels that are like wood, and then it's like a dot in the middle, and then the spikes on the outside, right? And then they had the property owners is Zook Farms, so we got to sort of give them a little cameo because it said Zook Farms on the side of the wagon.
Yeah,
it was like a cool little thing for them, and then also a way for us to get like a really cool period prop out of nowhere, like for free, you know.
It was there.
Yeah, it started with just like a full end of the horse barn, and we were like clearing out all the like power tools and stuff, and we were like, wait, some of this stuff is like actually very like period, because they've been going for a long time.
Yeah,
now.
the Halloween decorations had to go though. That was like,
yeah, we had like some skeletons on the ceiling.
Cannot keep this jack-o'-lantern up. Sorry.
So you mentioned Peaky Blinders as an inspiration. What other films inspired you?
I would say the biggest one is Fight Club, mostly definitely in the violence and the way it talks about masculinity. So thematically very much similar to that. And I was definitely watching a lot of Fight Club and really loving that movie while we were putting the film together.
I could say on terms of the cinematography and the like action design of the piece, I was really inspired by the Kingsman Secret Service, the first movie of that series, as well as The Matrix, as well as
Sherlock Holmes.
Sherlock Holmes, the first one with Robert Downey Jr. A lot of those, all of those films have like some very strong like man-on-man like fight sequences that were like, and even like some bare knuckle sequences, which also like helped us in terms of choreography and design. So taking a lot of those scenes and films and watching like what are they doing during this action sequence to keep an audience engaged or add another level to the storytelling, especially in terms of like you'll see like a punch, the camera like moves to follow the punch where it lands, and then the punch then comes back and reveals something behind. You have like multiple layers of action reveal movement where the camera is another part of that choreography, or intentionally placed so that the choreography is maximized. So those were some of the films that I took like a lot of inspiration from in terms of how they told the story through their fighting.
How did you fill out your crew, and where'd you find your crew, and kind of what were your goals, with your supporting team behind you three?
So we really lucked out, I think, in how our network grew with this project. And, it started with Jake. And Jake was really good friends with Louis Jeremita, Primo Tailoring owner, the wardrobe designer. And we went to him to talk about wardrobe and show him some stuff. And we're chatting with him. And I don't know how it came up, but basically we were like, do you know anyone that fights? Do you know anyone that could help us choreograph a fight? And he was like, oh, yeah, my friends are trainers at 3 Elements MMA gym downtown. Here are their numbers. So we called Kieran and Eli, and they are fight, 10 plus years of fighting jiu-jitsu. They compete in Pittsburgh
skills,
and different places. They're very, very good.
Yeah, they doubled as security as well on set, which is really helpful. Yeah. Cut costs there.
And they just ate it up. Like as soon as we pitched the idea to them, they were like, "Oh, I'm gonna go read all these books about bare knuckle boxing and talk." Like
it's great.
They studied it up and they did a great job.
Yeah, they're just like, so that was one side of the connection, and then also my some of the camera crew, like I was able to connect through my RIT, the film program we have there. We have so many talented DPs, directors, crafters of every like stage of production, and like these are people that they really are just itching to do like the best work possible, like especially when it comes to stuff that's outside of school. Obviously we all oftentimes will get like kind of trapped in like, oh, this is an assignment, like this is just my regular work. So like being able to bring some of those people out onto a refreshing like new set that doesn't have some of the same like educational and like grade attachments was really was really like helped them come and bring their A game to the R set as well.
Let me just jump in real quick on that, because I know I've found it challenging to kind of recruit college students, film students sometimes in the local programs, because they're so like involved in the classwork, and that takes up so much of their time. Do you do you have any tips just for anybody that's looking for, people that are eager like yourselves, but still in school, like to attract them to projects? Did you work with professors? I mean, would working with professors help? Or
I think that a key aspect was the like give and take for many of these students. They've seen me go out of my way to spend like the weekends on their sets and give them that kind of level of work and respect, and also see the quality of work. So part of it is definitely just the camaraderie of being in it with those other college students to get them to want to work on your set, where they can like really relate to like what you need and what they've needed in the past. But I think a lot of the times it's like, do you have the ability to like push your art, push your skill with this set, or are you just more like filling a function? Like, I think that's something that we always try to do, especially when we're bringing in students. It's like, we want this to like not only be something you can have like as a reference for your future work, but like a place that you can actually like improve and like try those things that you're passionate about. Like I said, that kind of leads back into what I was saying about motivation. It's like when you have somebody that's coming up and they're like excited to like give their all on a set, like that, like if you can nurture that naturally, like that's going to make the best film at the end of the day, is when everybody is like that motivated to really give it their all.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just thinking now of some of the some people from Barron, some students there in the Digit program that are part of the Bold Media Group, and also that work for Bold C, which is the gear house. And like Joey, for example, Joey Gardner, one day came on one of our sets, and we didn't tell him that he was getting paid even. We just said, hey, do you want to come help out? And then, we paid him, but he was just there to learn. He was super, super proactive, and anything we would ask him to do, he would try to do it like world-class level. He would take notes, super detailed notes about the shots and things, and he would help move gear carefully and put it back the way it was. And I mean, certain people just have like a very proactive drive inside of them, and if you see that, make sure they're your best friend.
Yeah, I think a lot of times they'll come to you. It's very clear who wants to be a part of it. I know definitely towards the end of my college career, I was less concerned about class and more concerned about film. It's like, this is where I'm going to put, I'm going to put my eggs in this basket and not, class. Which is maybe not the best advice to have on this podcast, but
another like give me advice, but I think it's important is money. Like if you are able to compensate the like students and whether it's your PA like bottom of the hierarchical like tower, if they're getting paid, you're even more, there's less in the way of, they're not thinking about anything else other than like, oh, I'm here to be on the set. They're not thinking about like, oh man, I like wish I was getting more out of this or something.
Yeah.
But that's obviously, that's going to be forever the battle you have to fight in terms of like, do you have the amount of money to compensate your crew like at a fair rate for multiple days of shooting? We all know that it can add up really quick.
You got to make it a family. Yeah, that helps. And then just make your story cool as hell, and people are going to want to be there.
Now, Simon, that's interesting. You said you had RIT students working on your film, because RIT being, 3 hours away in Rochester, but you chose to film in Erie, so you got them to drive here. So why did you choose Erie over Rochester?
Definitely the local connection. Our network is just so much bigger here. Rochester, while not being really an insane hub of filmmaking, does have a lot more like established film and commercial entities there that kind of makes it a little less like forthcoming when it comes to just like, oh, this is a new big thing. Like you have like these levels of productions being produced on a fairly consistent rate, especially through the school, like the senior thesis films. A lot of them do gain like fairly, a couple $1,000 budgets and reach out to local businesses like at a very consistent rate, versus here where, I could probably count on like two hands the amount of films with like budgets over $500 or $5,000 have been made in the last like 5 years. But so a lot of it was our like local connection, and the fact that the RIT students more like they knew the gear, like they didn't have to like know the location as much, or like the some of the more location based aspects. They just needed to know like the protocol, the like workflow, and like the vision.
Erika, I mean, we've got, probably everybody watching and listening to this really excited about the film. Why don't we, before we jump into like upcoming screenings and festival circuit and stuff, why don't we check out the trailer for the film and then pop back in? Does that sound good?
Excited to share it.
Yeah.
Tell me about your father, Charlie.
My father? I don't really remember my father. I had to figure the world out.
And tell me what you realized.
I realized that our world is cruel.
There is a fire in you, Charlie. All it took was one great bloody war to turn a generation of true-blooded Americans into stone-cold killers. Shall we begin? You're gonna like this, Charlie. Give me. I don't fight for money, and I certainly do not fight for you. You would if you had an ounce of intelligence about you. These Charlie boys.
Word is spread of Alexander the Brain, the bloody patriot. This world is cruel.
Oh, but I can be crueler. Do you know why they call me the Brain, Mr. Bolly? It's because I'm such a bastard.
That looks totally awesome, guys.
I know.
Badass.
I appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
I spent
can't
so
wait.
much-
Okay, so we're really excited. All right, so coming up this week actually is the local premiere, the public premiere of Alexander the Brain. So tell us all about the event.
So the event's going to be on Saturday, March 19th from 5 to 9 at the Erie Art Museum. We're going to have open food, hors d'oeuvres, snacks, little plates. We're going to have a cash bar, live music. We're hosting a panel discussion about the future of film in Erie, some local prominent film figures, such as John Lyons. We're really excited to have our first company event and to premiere our film, but also to try to start more conversation around filmmaking in Erie and to show people that people are doing it here and enjoying it, having a lot of fun, and there's resources available, and it's very possible, not only for local people, but for people, in the greater state or neighboring states. If they're looking for a place that is very film friendly, this is a place for it, and we want to keep that building and keep it growing.
Yeah, we want to stress that this is not just a premiere, but also like an oddity event. We really want to like bring more of that community interaction aspect to filmmaking as a whole, as well as just being so excited to show off like this baby that we've been working on for
We've been
so
raising.
so many months at this point. It's finally ready to walk across the stage.
Yeah. And then,
Aw.
oh, look at little Alexander with
Aw,
his first
little
fight. Look at him go.
Alexander.
He's got a
Um,
mustache, binky,
Yeah,
or
well,
something.
and we can also say we'll have a really cool announcement to share at the event. I can't really say too much, but it'll be out of this world for sure.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then,
awesome.
so okay, after the premiere, I mean, of course, we're all looking forward to that, but like, what happens after the premiere? Like, what is the future of Alexander the Brain?
Well, we've already submitted to, I think, 18 plus festivals now.
Mhm.
Danny got Best Male Director at London Indie Film Festival?
London Indie Shorts Festival. Yeah.
London Indie Shorts
Oh,
Festival.
thanks.
And then also, I think we were semifinalists in San Francisco International.
No, we were a finalist in the San Francisco Indie Film Festival, and we recently also got accepted to the Los Angeles Indie Short Awards, Independent Short Awards.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So it's floating out
in multiple
there.
categories, which is really exciting for us. So like part of it is the classic build up reputation through your film. We get as many people to see it as possible, and that's like the festival circuit is a well established, well known way to just get your film to be seen by others and really like spread that message. And part of that is building up to this type of event where it's like, hey, like, we're already starting to trickle in some of these recognitions, and we're excited to show it to you before it hopefully just
Hopefully
continues,
goes,
launches the rest of the way.
And if someone out there has the money for it, I do have a hour-and-a-half version of the movie that could be made.
Okay, that's an important thing to get out there for sure, and something that can be very useful for shorts, right? This short can serve as your proof of concept essentially.
Exactly, yeah.
and show that you all know what you're doing and can shoot a beautiful, well-structured, well-acted,
Yeah, we
well-storied film.
we've definitely seen shorts as like a great way to like really punch in on specific stories and aesthetics. You might be aware that we also co-produced a short, Blinded, with Distorted Vision Productions, which has also started to gain some acceptances and awards from its submission. So, I feel like the shorts are a great way for us to really just prove in small doses, small affordable doses, uh, the ability that we can show with our work and our team building and our execution. And so, but it's all definitely for the purpose of bigger and better for sure.
That's awesome. And I want to give a thank you and a shout out to your team as well for helping Corinne Justine on making her short Funeral, which we worked on together,
Absolutely.
which was really awesome. How about, let's talk a little bit about festival strategy, because there's so many film festivals and it can get really expensive really fast. What are kind of your, how do you approach submitting to festivals, and do you have any tips for filmmakers? Like, what are you looking for? Is it cities you want to go to? Do you look at how many years the festival's been around and kind of check out their sites and reputations? Like, how do you navigate those waters?
Yeah, I'd say there's a few priorities you want to stick with right off the bat, and I think that comes down to the actual content. If when you associate like films about like sexuality or discrimination, you like might think of like Outfest, like these films that are specifically like tailored to certain types of movies. For us, that's the action, the historical genre. So like we would look for festivals that were running for several years, established, that also had very strong focuses on the independent, the action, and the like historical base, and started with those where we could potentially get acceptances and awards early on in the process. Following any kind of accolades, then we get into kind of like the meta of promotion and utilizing some of the resources both through Film Freeway and as well as social media to like spread the message that we are getting in festivals and we are getting awarded, getting recognized for the work. And that actually is a great way to get attention from many other film festivals, which will often give you discount codes, or in some cases even free admission or free application to the festival, which can greatly expand the number of festivals your film can get into without you necessarily like spending all that money up front. It's like, be strategic as you start your submissions, try to gain some notoriety, and then if you are able to get awarded or recognized, then use that to like propel more festivals to like want you instead of just like reached out greatly. And the follow up to that is, hopefully as you kind of build that more and more, you can get recognized maybe at a like larger festival, a Tribeca, a TIFF, or any of those types of Sundance shorts is like a massive that's the start of many an amazing feature film is through that program that they have there. So, but it's certainly a strategy game to start building up how to raise it without spending the least amount of money.
Yeah, that's awesome. Those are really, really good tips. I just want to say, it's refreshing to have you in the film scene, because the Film Society's always been about collaboration and trying to connect filmmakers, and having you with that like-minded approach right from the jump is it just warms my heart, really, to be honest.
I mean, like we were just saying, like filmmaking doesn't even exist without collaboration. And there's when we're talking about some place like Erie, which really just doesn't have that established mentality of like, oh, Erie's a film town, oh, we have like lots of filmmakers in Erie. It's like there's no point in like being contentious over it, because it's like there's already not enough to like there's more than enough to go around, I guess, in that case. But especially on the narrative side, which is something that, you know, we always push for, whether it's in our commercial work or whatnot. We really like, we're filmmakers. We're about cinema, and if we can introduce cinema to our, you know, more corporate ventures, then that's also something that we just always try to look for.
Yeah, and we're only walking in the path that the Film Society has paved. So
yeah, very much
Thank
so.
you guys.
I thank you guys for
Absolutely.
you know, putting all that work in.
It's good to have you. Good to have you in the family for sure. Well, as we wrap up, and definitely everyone, where can they go to get tickets, and where can they go to find out more information about Oddity?
So I'd say the best place for all of that would be oddityproductions.com. If you go to the work tab, and then in the very first column there's Alexander the Brain. We have a whole page on Alexander the Brain with information of the film and a link to the Erie Art Museum website. So another place that's great to go for ticket sales specifically would just be erieartmuseum.org/oddity. And then there you can find tickets for the event on Saturday, March 19th. Yes.
Yeah, and we're also constantly posting our new work on the website, new reels, and like we're definitely looking to expand it even more beyond that. But that's in the works.
Yeah, and we do post a lot of updates as well on our Instagram,
Yes,
which is just at
very much.
Oddity Productions, ODDITY
Yeah,
Productions.
it's the one thing that we've really lucked out with is having a production company name that for some reason hasn't been like
Hasn't been taken
scooped
yet.
up by every single social media website and whatnot. So
We're lucky.
yeah.
Yeah, good name choice for sure. Well, I don't want to ask you the question of what's next, because I feel like you're going to unveil some of that stuff at the event. Yeah, so I'll just say we're excited to see what's next from you, and thanks so much for being
We're
here
very much
and
looking
making
to the
films.
future. That's what I'd say.
Definitely.
Yeah,
All
thanks
right.
a lot, guys.
Thank you
All
for
right,
having
thank
us
you.
on.
Appreciate it.
That's been our episode. Thank you for listening. Make sure you follow the Film Society of Northwestern Pennsylvania and the Greater Erie Film Office on social media. Until next time, this was Film Grain.